Hello, everybody. It is with great joy that I bring to you my 2024 complete free-to-play guide. More than just a farming guide, I think. I'm not going to just tell you how to farm legendaries. I'm going to try to teach you how to approach different modes of the game or what you should do to prepare your roster for them. And it's a lot different than my 2023 guide because a lot of important changes have happened to make notable updates and completely change around the path that I think you should take. And I am currently in the process of trying to revamp or wake up one of my old iPhones so that maybe I can do this process as well, start a new free-to-play account, and so to speak, put my money where my mouth is, even though I'm not going to spend any money, put my time where my mouth is. So hopefully this helps you learn how to approach Galaxy of Heroes in 2024. And for just a high-level summary of what is actually covered in this guide, follow timestamps for actual placement of every different section. We're going to talk about free-to-play objectives in the game, recommended teams, and then also journey guide order, guild content, crystal management, resource management in general, just the core non-GL squads. That's going to be throughout the guide too, and then some other tips and tricks. So just use those timestamps if you don't want to see everything. And now let's talk about some objectives we have for the game. What are we actually trying to get out of it? Number one is actually just have fun. I mean, it's a really fun game to me. Like if you're a person like me, loves the resource management, the battles, the strategy, and it's a marathon game. Truly is a marathon game. Like progress is measured in years and months, not days and weeks. So it's going to take a long time to do most things worth doing in the game, but it's very fulfilling along the way, and there's lots of milestones to look forward to brand new, even if you're not going to have an account like an enormous account like my main account. So just have fun. Two, take advantage of every resource available to you. That means energy, crystals, currency, events, giveaways, guild activities, grand arena. Everything feeds into everything else, building up your roster. So you want to take advantage of everything. You want to join the best guild you possibly can and embrace that community. You don't have to be like an occult or anything. Just find a bunch of, good, pleasant people that are playing the game, love Star Wars, and are going to help you along your way with your roster and give advice to you as a newer player. So that's really important. Do not join a starter guild. They're terrible. Leave them as soon as you can. We're going to have a big focus on ships because that's how we get crystals as a free player in this game at this point. Used to be in Squad Arena with normal characters, but not so much anymore. And then I am one of those people that doesn't want you to chase a Galactic Legend immediately. We will get to them. Galactic Legends are characters that require a ton of other characters at a very high development level to get. And there are ships that have similar requirements. They take a very long time, and they can just dominate your entire focus for months and up to a year if you're not careful. So we're trying to get a bunch of good teams first before we do that. So what has really changed since the last time I made a guide? The last time I released a guide was the end of May in 2023 in the wake of a raid change. So several new things have changed. So we have kind of a raid system chaos. The newest raid is going to be in flux every few months. So it doesn't make sense to plan your roster around the current raid if you're making a new one. It was a crate raid, and so we had like Tuskens, Hut Cartel. It wasn't worth it to focus on those as a new player because by the time you got them, that raid was gone. We have some amazing new characters, ships, and reworks in the game that change this farming guide path. Galactic Legend value and Lightspeed bundles is changing, so we're going to talk about that later. Lightspeed bundles are super cheap packs that help you jump way ahead in progress. We're going to talk about different character accelerations that happened in the past year and that will happen soon, and then different farming locations. So a lot of things have changed that really changed the progress in the early game. And right now we come to the first substantive page of this guide. I am very tiny in the corner because there's a lot on it. One thing I've changed since my last couple editions of the guide is I am going to simultaneously show which teams you want to actually use throughout the game that are the good teams, and then have the legendary unlocks on the right. So these are the teams you want, and then this is how you get there efficiently, because what you want to unlock a character, the easiest, quickest path a lot of times, is not the team you actually want to use. So for example, our number one first team is going to be Phoenix. Once again, I started 2023 recommending them. Their farming locations have shifted around, and we also got Captain Rex. He's an amazing new character. He will be a little bit more difficult to develop because he requires newer gear like Chirotech, but he is well worth it even at low stars, low gear. He's going to completely revamp this Phoenix team. And he's a slower farm. All these older characters in the game, if they've been in the game for over a year, they're an accelerated farm. That means you farm 2 shards at a time. So a lot of these characters are older characters, but some are newer. like Rex, it's going to take longer, but it's well worth it. The resource you use to gain each character is shown next to their portrait. And our first legendary unlock we're going to go for is Emperor Palpatine. So until that point, we're going to be running a Phoenix team. The quickest unlock star-wise, you need a 5-star character for all this. You can unlock Palpatine with any rebels, but all the Phoenix are rebels. So we're going to go with them. You need them all at 5 stars. The quickest way would probably be adding someone like Zeb as the 5th. But the core 4 is Hera, Rex, Chopper, and Kanan. It's going to go very well. Use Zeb. You don't even have to gear him up too much just to unlock Emperor Palpatine. But then you're going to use Rex in actual gameplay. And later, we're going to talk about Jedi in a second. Later, you definitely need Phoenix specifically to unlock Admiral Thrawn. This is a more challenging event. I would recommend you using Captain Rex in there. It's going to make it much easier. And then you can use either Ezra or Zeb as the 5th. Just depends. But using Ezra to unlock Palpatine makes sense because he is farmed on the exact same node as Kanan. So it's going to be very fast. And then for Grandmaster Yoda, we're going to unlock using Zeb or Ezra and Kanan. They're farmed already. Then also Mace Windu, Anakin, and Ahsoka. And they're going to fit into our ships plan, which I'll get into on the next slide. And then the 2 other teams we want to get after we have Phoenix, we have a Palpatine lead team with Admiral Thrawn, who's also unlocked as a legendary, Darth Vader, who's unlocked through achievements, and then Fleet Currency. First off, we're going to have achievements because it takes level 60 to get to the fleet store. Then we're going to have Admiral Tarkin, or Grand Moff Tarkin, because he is very easy to farm with his squad arena currency. We don't really need that for Kanan if we're farming him with Cantina energy. And then the 5th slot, it could be a variety of things. I mean, honestly, the strongest, if you want to get out ahead of a team we're doing later, you could get Traya pretty quickly and easily with raid currency. They gift you Moff Gideon in the beginning, so even if you're not farming him to 7 stars, he could work. RJ's super strong, but she's a newer character and requires Kyrotex. And TIE Fighter Pilot is pretty accessible, but I would wait till level 60 to farm him because his ship is on the same node and you don't want to miss out on farming his ship. So that's our first dark side team. And then the Jedi team, we're going to take these ship players, ship characters, Anakin, Ahsoka, and Mace Windu, and start a Galactic Republic fleet. And then we want Bastila Shan as a leader. She's an amazing leader for Jedi. Even if you get her at low stars, her leadership ability is insane, makes the team super survivable. And then we take Yoda, which we unlocked. And that's a pretty nice functioning starter Jedi team. You also can unlock General Kenobi and put him here. He's a fantastic character. Just depends if you want to go for Traya first there or get Kenobi. Kenobi's going to be very huge down the line. We're going to try to get his ship. So hopefully this isn't too confusing how I laid it out. Left side, good teams. Right side, the easiest path to actually get there. And I'm happy to say that there are no sacrifices on these teams that you're using. Everyone has a long and lasting use, a big impact. Phoenix is going to get you through most of the game modes. It has great sustain for Galactic War, which is to get these green shards and give you a lot of different gear, credits, training droids, stuff like that. And this Empire team, obviously, it's going to take a little bit of time to unlock. You can start on other pieces, just random dark side characters in the beginning to get through a few of those dark side nodes that you want to get. And then the Jedi is going to be another just great team to plug into Galactic War if you're doing Territory War, Territory Battle Rates, just various content in the game. So you have a very strong basis with these 3 teams. But Phoenix is going to be your best friend for several weeks and maybe a couple months. And now you may ask, how do I actually get the resources to develop all these characters? So I shoot icons next to them. A lot of them are energy. You need crystals to do that. And you get crystals from a variety of sources. Daily activities are going to get, I don't know, between 100 and 150 as a newer player. Fleet Arena is the biggest payout. A Fleet Arena is a group of about 1,000 players thrown into one server and they all compete. It sounds like a lot if you're having to compete with 1,000, but most aren't that active. You're trying to get as high a rank at a certain time of day as you can, and you're going to get a ton of crystals. Like the sooner you can get high up in Fleet Arena, the better your gameplay is going to be. And then how to spend it. It might not be intuitive as a brand new player if you're completely new to the game, but spending on energy, even though you naturally get energy, it accrues over time. You get a lot of bonus energy at the beginning. They throw this stuff at you, especially normal energy and Cantina. They are going to be the best use of crystals. So it's 50 crystals for normal energy refresh, mod energy, and ships, and 100 for Cantina, which is expensive, but it's still very important. So use your refreshes primarily on normal energy and Cantina energy 3 times every day, probably for normal energy, 1 to 3, depending on what you can afford for Cantina. And then the others, mods starts at level 50, ship starts at level 60, so you don't have to concern yourself with that right away, but this is our main resource we have to manage. And now we get to the absolute cornerstone of this guide, which is the approach to ships. Now, the endurance used to be the lacking stock of the beginner fleets, but it got a rework in the second half of 2023. It made it completely valuable early game, in my opinion. So, and Mace Windu also got a rework a while ago. He's a completely viable character on his own. He used to be terrible, which is surprising for fans of Star Wars because he's so awesome. But we're going to be starting out using Mace as our starter fleet. Really work on Anakin and his ship as fast as we can. So we want to farm Anakin and Ahsoka really early. They're the core 2 in this fleet. You need to wait till ships actually get unlocked to start farming Anakin's ETA. And then, I mean, all ships need to unlock before you start farming them. But then Ahsoka's ship too, very solid, still amazing for me at the very end of the game. And then you need a solid tank. Eventually we want Houndstooth, which is a bounty hunter named Bosk's ship. And it's an amazing tank, one of the best ships in the game. But we're not going to get that instantly, so we want a solid tank in the meantime. You might want to try Biggs Darklighter, who's pretty early, easily accessible, and it's just kind of a stopgap. Eventually, we're going to be adding Plo Koon's Jedi Starfighter. Plo Koon himself and his ship are farmable with Cantina energy, so it'll take time to get there. When you start doing it, you want to alternate farm Plo, get him unlocked, unlock his ship, because it is an amazing reinforcement ship. It cleanses the whole team, gives him turn meter, just fantastic. And he doesn't need to be super developed himself, just a little bit of gear, like even under gear 8. He's going to get the job done. We want to farm eventually the Y-Wing tank and then the Marauder. So the Marauder is really the game changer. It makes the Galactic Republic fleet rival Galactic Legend fleets like Executor, Profundity, and Leviathan. It will help you climb in Fleet Arena. You're going to have to focus on Bad Batch a lot sooner than people normally would. They're newer characters. They are accelerated. You farm 2 shards at a time, so getting their shards will be easy. Getting them into high gear will take Chirotex, which is a really annoying gear piece. So there are some growing pains there, but it will be worth it. This is an alternative to the Executor farming route. To farm Executor, you need tons of characters and relics, some that would not be a high priority aside from farming that ship, and I'll show that screen in a little bit. But if you have just Anakin starting, this Y-Wing and Marauder, and then Ahsoka and Plo in the reinforcements, you can take down almost anything with Negotiator. Negotiator does take time to farm. This is Guild Event Tokens number 2. So you need to get in a guild as soon as you can. That gets this currency. Just always be trying to look to move up in a guild. Or if your guild's close, just help them develop to get to that point where you can get this currency. Only spend this on Negotiator. So spend it on Negotiator until he has 7 stars completely all the way. And here on the left, I just put this here for longtime players. Watch these guides and they yell at the screen. Well, you're not talking about this. I will get to Darkside ships. Darkside ships are an important facet too. But our main first concern is Fleet Arena. So this step number 1 is going to be with you for a long time, months and months. They're characters you don't have to worry. You're not missing anything by investing in them. They're super strong. And then we'll get to General Kenobi later. And then you can invest those relics you would have invested in an Executor requirements that you might not even want. Put them into these awesome Galactic Republic characters and make this fleet a complete wrecking ball. Now that we've covered ships, which is super important, we get to move back onto our character farming portion, and I'm tiny in the corner again because we've got a lot to cover here. On the left side, we're showing the teams we actually want to get. And we have a Bosk Bounty Hunter team, and for existing players, you might note the absence of a Chewbacca on the right side. Let me explain. Chewbacca is a legendary character in this game, and he requires bounty hunters to unlock, but he's actually a pretty challenging event. So we want to start working on bounty hunters even before we have eyes on unlocking Chewbacca. So Chewbacca will take time, and it'll be on the next character screen, I promise. But in the meantime, you need scoundrels to get credits from the credit heist event and the training droid event, and those are really big early game bottlenecks. So we want at least a functional scoundrel team trying to get their stars up as we go. Bosk and Django are mandatory for ships anyway, so they're high priority, like paramount priority. Grief and Mando are really strong. You're going to be using normal energy for them. The ship energy comes later. It's going to take a while to get to them. And Boba Fett's easy to unlock with Cantina currency. So you're going to do them a little bit earlier to get the credits and the training droids. The next two legendary unlocks we want to get are Padme and Jedi Knight Revan, and they kind of branch off our Jedi team that we had. We had a Bastila lead Jedi team with Galactic Republic Jedi. We want to splinter those Galactic Republic Jedi and put them with Padme when we unlock her, and put Bastila, Yoda, Farm Jolie Bindo, who is a requirement to unlock Revan, put those with Revan, and then a fifth. Ezra you already have, so it might work. Plo Koon you might have because of farming ships, and Old Ben is another option too. So the fifth is flexible. It's not super important. Just pick one of these or something, go with it. So to actually unlock Padme and Revan, Revan is actually a little bit easier to unlock, so you could choose to go for that first. But I just put Padme on first because she's a 5-star unlock. These characters can be weaker, except for maybe Bastila and Jolie, who you want strong anyway for the team. But you need them all at 7 stars, so it might take some time. Padme, on the other hand, might be quicker. And these 3 Geonosians, you might be wanting to farm them sooner for ships purposes, for dark side ships anyway. So that's why they might go first. In reality, it depends. You might get to start on Revan first over Padme, because these aren't normal energy unlocks. It just depends how fast your farming is actually going. We're going to mainly rely on Jango to take care of this event. He's a strong character. We're going to kind of build him up more on this team. He's a powerhouse with the bounty hunters, and he's going to be a powerhouse here. And then Nuke Gunray is just an easy farm. He's a scoundrel leader. With a scoundrel leader, Jango Fett has damage at the beginning, so it's really strong. And then you could also use full Geonosians if you decide to. But you want to farm Geonosian Brute Alpha, even if you just get him to 4 stars, get him to level 72. This makes a really strong defensive team in Grand Arena when we get to that at level 85, which you may unlock these characters before level 85, it might be after. But Geonosians, the 5th member Poggle, he's not needed for ships, but he's an easy farm. This is a Galactic War token. That can be your 6th team. So, and I put 5A, 5B here because we're splitting up that pre-existing team. So at this point, we'll have 3 light side teams. We'll have Phoenix, Jedi Revan team, and Padme team. On 3 dark side, we'll have the Emperor Palpatine team, Bosk, Grief and Mando are light side. You could farm quick farm some other easy to get dark side bounty hunters if you need them for like territory battle. And then we're gonna have Geonosians. So we're gonna have an even dark side, light side split of teams at the beginning. And I cannot stress how important developing this Galactic Republic team is. I'd probably focus on getting them to high gear and relics faster than the others, just because of how important they are to ships, and they're a great team on land too. So just focus on them first. Get these guys up in stars as fast as you can to get those credits, and then Jedi Revan team can take a little bit lower priority, even though Mission and Zalbar are farmed together. That's pretty easy. You want Jolie anyway, and then T3, probably the last one to get on here. This is Cantina, and you might have other priorities. So that is our character screen number 2 for this guide. And now time for ships aside number 2, where we're going to talk about dark side ships and Zetas. I'm going to expand myself a little bit. But we're talking about the Zeta challenge, which requires dark side ships. So in the beginning, our only dark side capital ship is Tarkin, who we already farmed Tarkin for the Palpatine team. And these Geonosians, their ships, I recommend their ships for this event just because they're easy to farm. They're all Galactic War tokens. There aren't too many characters we need to focus on the Galactic War store, so we'll get those, and then we'll start working on as many ships as we can. Down here, I have Chimera. Chimera is a better dark side ship that you will want at some point, but probably delay it because you're going to need some Rebel ships and the Phoenix ships, so we don't want to really go too hard on that. We can use Tarkin to start for the purpose of this event, and then just get a few Geonosian ships, and then maybe 2 Empire ships. Probably the easiest being TIE Fighter Pilot and his ship. They're farmed on the same node, so that's pretty simple. And then Darth Vader. We already want Darth Vader, and then his ship. Once we unlock fleets, we want to use these fleet tokens to get them. Other Empire ships that make this fleet good on its own, I put them here because I'm not showing it anywhere else. The TIE Bomber is slower. It's a slower farm to do because you're not getting it with tokens. It's going to take longer So maybe you want to put that off a little bit later. We do need 6 5-star ships, so just, I don't know, get whatever is the easiest. And then Inversio, I'm not recommending her team be farmed, and she has a pretty solid team, but mainly just her ship is amazing. So you can just unlock her ship with her and have that just for fleets. You want this as a reinforcement, but it's basically the best ship in the game. So then eventually, once you get that done, you can start getting 6 Zeta material mats a week. You need 20 to upgrade a Zeta ability on a character, which is like the latest stage of an ability that can get. That's across the whole game. There's a different type of ability called Omicrons, which is game mode specific, but we'll talk about that later. Some pretty early Zeta priorities you can consider are Captain Rex's unique, Darth Vader's Merciless Massacre ability that lets him get like 5, 6, 7, 8 turns in a row, Emperor Palpatine's lead for tons of turn meter, Bosk's lead, and then or Basila's lead. If you're only if you're gonna delay Giant Knight Revan for a while, or it's gonna take a while, you can get her lead. And then Padme's lead and unique are great options too. But you can't apply Zetas until over level 80. So you have some time to work with. You don't have to like really scramble to get all these ships like immediately. You got a few months before you're hitting upper level 80, which is where you can actually apply Zetas. So just keep that in mind. It's what we're going to work on, and we're still using Galactic Republic Fleet and Fleet Arena, but just get these up to minimum standards. I don't even know what gear you need them. Maybe like low gear 7, 8, just to get this these Zeta abilities. And a quick section right here on Grand Arena. Grand Arena is my favorite game mode. You use most of your roster, both characters and ships. Set defenses in 4 different zones. So this is a preview at it. This would be like my side. I have 4 blue zones, ships being in the back zone. So I set a few teams. At the beginning, I think it starts like 1 each zone. So if you're in like Carbonite League, you don't have to have too many teams. Maybe 3 for offense, 3 for defense. It just depends. And then a fleet. So you will need 2 fleets. So there's the dark side fleet and then the Galactic Republic. It makes total sense. It unlocks at level 85 though, so it is something to look forward to. You're not going to do it immediately, but that is what we are building our roster for and preparing for. We're preparing for Grand Arena, where you get lots of crystals if you do well. It's hard to get a lot of crystals at the beginning because, as I showed in that previous screen, a Carbonite crystal payout is like just 55 a day or something. But you get more for wins too. So just something to keep in mind. This is our goal for getting past the beginning game. Also, as we get into Grand Arena, you're going to have to figure out how to use mods. Mods are very complicated. They modify the stats of all your characters. Too difficult to talk about now, or it's like too in-depth. I do have a video on this, Mods 101, where I try to explain in-depth at a basic, understandable level how mods work, what you want to do with them. So I'm going to link that video. Go check that out if you need help with mods. They unlock at level 50 though, so you do have some time before you have to start tinkering with them. And now we get to our 3rd character screen, and we're still on what we would have covered in one screen in the previous guide, the 8th legendary unlock. So we have 6, 7, and 8 all feed into one team. This is feeding into our CLS team, and then we have 3 teams that are not related to legendaries that we're going to be talking about in a second. But first, let me address R2-D2. So people scream in the comments, you need Imperial Troopers to get R2-D2 fast. I don't care about R2-D2. The only reason to get R2-D2 is to unlock Commander Luke Skywalker. Commander Luke Skywalker requires these exact 5 characters at 7-star to unlock. I think you can take a leisurely stroll around your roster and wait to get 7 good Empire characters to 7 stars before you get R2-D2. R2-D2 is not that special anymore. He's not super important. Everything I've covered before then, these teams, more important. And CLS is a fantastic team, perhaps stronger than all the other teams we've talked about so far, but he is very difficult to get up and running because he requires a legendary unlock for himself, and also Chewbacca, which is a difficult unlock. However, if you are able to get to these steps sooner than I am showing it in here, like 6, 7, and 8 for them, by all means do it. If like you're getting ahead of time, if your bounty hunters are kicking butt and you're able to unlock Chewbacca even at 5 stars sooner, quicker, then go for it. Go for Chewbacca, go for CLS, just go right ahead. I don't think there's any problem with that. I'm just laying it out in a way that we want to focus on Galactic Republic first for ships, because we're not going to be really leaning into Rebel ships in this guide. So that team is CLS, Han, Chewbacca, 3PO, and Chewie, who's just a marquee farm. Han Solo is available with raid currency. You can actually get him pretty fast. If you want to get him sooner, probably not a bad idea. He can fit well into like any team just because he shoots first. So he's kind of nice to have. As the 5th, I go with either Old Ben or R2-D2. We're going to hold off on C-3PO. C-3PO requires Ewoks to unlock. And you need them pretty developed to actually get it done. It's a pretty difficult event, so we're just going to delay that for now. So just know C-3PO is the best 5th of this team eventually, but for the time being, we're going to ignore that for this. Commander Luke is not super hard to farm. I mean, you can farm Leia in the squad arena, shipments, farm boy Luke, a variety of resources you can use to farm him. Same with Old Ben. And then Stormtrooper Han is a very nice isolated separate path with the Cantina node. So just trying to be working all. If you are not farming anything else in Squad Arena or Cantina or anything, you can work on these, and if you can get him sooner, by all means go for it. And then Bounty Hunters, we already want to work on them anyway, so get Chewbacca as soon as you can too. It just fits into a different screen. So don't jump on me too much, later game players, if you think that this is laid out wrong. So now on the left side, we have 3 teams that I previously didn't really touch on too much in my free-to-play farming guide. And that's because I think one of the weaknesses of a lot of free-to-play farming guides, including my own, was focusing too much on legendary unlocks and not focusing as much on the teams that don't require those unlocks but might be just as good or better. This team, the Darth Traya team with Nihilus, Scion, Savage, and Talon, is better than every other team I've talked about in Grand Arena specifically. You need Omicrons for Darth Traya for that to be the case. And an Omicron on Savage is even better. But Savage Oppress is a solo monster in his own right. People should be trying to get him quickly too. Even working on him before this full team. So you should be working on him like earlier in the guide. So like just as soon as you're hitting level 85, you want to get this guy some gear levels, give him his Omicron if you have one, and start wrecking people. But once you have him in this team, it's a Galactic Legend level team, basically, in Grand Arena. It basically requires a Galactic Legend to beat if it's in its full, true powered-up form. Darth Talon is, you don't absolutely need her. You could get any other Sith and put it in there for the time being. That's just the ideal team. So I hope people actually listen to this. You have to listen to my commentary with these visuals. You can substitute someone else in there for her. But Nihilus and Scion, they're normal energy farms. Traya is like Han and Obi-Wan and General Kenobi. The raid currency, which is pretty easy to use. But that's an amazing team. It's going to be great for you in Dark Side Territory battle. Proving Ground specifically, which we'll get to that in a little bit. You need 5 million GP to access that. And then most importantly, Grand Arena. Territory War, they're not bad too, especially if you have them kind of developed. They do not play into ships at all or any other legendaries. Next, number 9. This is, again, the kind of the crux of the guide, is relying on the Negotiator for our endgame level fleet over the Executor. So these Bad Batch characters, they are newer characters. They are accelerated, so you're going to get their shards fast. But to get past Gear 8, 9, 10, it's going to require Kyrotechs. However, I think that's worth it. The ones we need for the Marauder ship are Hunter, Wrecker, and Tech. And the Echo just makes the team like actually functional. I don't think you'll regret it. This team is fantastic on offense. It is super fun to use. Shock T makes a fantastic 5th. She could also lead it. It just depends. You're going to farm her with ship energy, so that takes a little time to get to. But they're an amazing ground team, and they make that Negotiator fleet a bona fide like world beater. It can beat everything. Leviathan has some trouble on, but that's the hardest ship to get. You shouldn't be seeing those unless you have a super whale in your shard. So cannot recommend that enough. I know it's difficult, but sometimes things worth doing are difficult. So this is going to be after several months. I don't know, 6, 7, 8 months into your account. So it's not an immediate thing. You might want to farm Wrecker earlier because he's on the same node as the Galactic Republic Y-Wing. And then number 10, this is just a crazy good team because of Zori. She's going to get accelerated in January of 2024. And it doesn't feed into any unlocks unless you want to go for Galactic Legend Ray later. It helps feed into a Jedi Training Ray unlock, which is not super important. But it's a relatively easy to acquire team and super strong. These middle 3 characters require Kyrotech, so it may take some time. Finn is an easy farm, Poe's an easy farm. It's just something to consider. If you don't want to do this, you could do something like Darth Revan or something at this point in this spot. But Zori is a really scary team. So if you invest in it early, you're not going to regret the results you get long term. So just my 2 cents, definitely worth farming early on. Let me clarify, early on just means the first year. It's like, I'm not telling you to work on them the first 3, 4, 5, even 6 months. This game, like I said, is a long game. It's a marathon, not a sprint. And just because you see a bunch of characters on a screen doesn't mean I think you're going to get them bing, bang, boom, like 1 month, 2 month, 3 month. These teams take time to develop, and I'm just ordering them in the order of priority. These unlocks should happen pretty fast before like a long time before you actually get to these teams. So yeah, just wanted to add that note on timing. This is a very stretched out long game. And just in case you want a little bit extra nudging to go towards the Negotiator instead of Executor, these are some comparable win rates of Negotiator and Executor versus the meta fleets. Some of these just have the Plo Koon and Y-Wing and the reinforcement. Some also include others, like a 5 ship, which is a good ship. But you have pretty comparable or even better win rates from Negotiator. So Negotiator, as long as you have Ebon Hawk, that's Karth and T3 and 4, not too bad to pick that ship up if you're seeing Executors in your chart. You can beat Negotiator or Executor with like 93% win rate. That's super important for just climbing fleet. Even if you lose, you just try again. For Negotiator, even a mirror match is harder. So it's like... Executor is fantastic. It's a great ship, don't get me wrong. I just think you can get a bargain by going for Negotiator instead of it. And Profundity 2, yes, Executor has a better win rate, but you're still going to be able to get past it in Fleet Arena, 64% here, facing the exact same lineup, which will be pretty common if you're even seeing Profundity in the early fleet, which I don't think you will. That was just a sneak peek there. But Leviathan is it takes a super long time to actually get to. And Executor has an even worse win rate than Negotiator. Like, this is even like more instances too, and it's just 5 ships. So I don't know. Don't tell me that it's not a good option. I think it's a fantastic option to go for a full-fledged Negotiator before doing Executor. And now we come to the resource management section, where I'm going to try and spoon feed you a specific order to use every currency in to follow this guide. You don't have to follow it specifically like this. You can on Audible and change things up as needed. You're not constrained by this. This is just giving you a good idea. And we will get to Galactic Legends and stuff later. But first, we're going to talk about this. So Galactic War, this is probably the fastest one you can get. As long as you're completing your Galactic War every day, you can get 3 different shipments. First priority is Zeb for that Phoenix team and just for unlocking Palpatine. 2, if you're not level 60 yet, which you probably won't be, you can start with Poggle. And then you want ships as soon as possible. I don't know when you'll get how many characters you'd have time to farm before ships unlocks, but once ships unlock, you want to farm ships. You want to farm those Geonosian ships, Ahsoka ship, as many ships as you can. Like, there are not too many great characters in the Galactic War store, so if you don't have a specific one in mind, get ships. Then Biggs Darklighter, he might be a good bridge tank for you, so you might want to get him for fleets. Squad Arena Story. If you're lucky, you can get 2 of these a day. Otherwise, you might just get 1 shipment a day for 10 shards. Mace Windu is going to be our top because we're going to want him as our fleet commander, and he's going to fit into that Jedi team early. Tarkin as a second, fitting into that Empire team and our dark side fleets. Then we want Newt. That's for the Padme unlock. Princess Leia maybe for CLS. Savage right after that, just because he's a Hoss. And then Admiral Akbar. I think there's some fleet. Maybe you don't. This will help you. Akbar is to unlock Chimera eventually, because you'll need his home one to do that. And then Greedo, that's like later. You can delay that. That's for like farming Jabba the Hutt or something later on. Cantina battles, you can get 1 to 2 of these a day, starting with Chopper for Phoenix, Ahsoka for fleets and that Jedi team, then Boba Fett for the bounty hunters, Stormtrooper Han. You can see the pattern here, so I won't go into all these so much. Actually, I kind of will at this point. Guild activity, I think General Kenobi is the highest priority, but you might also want to just do, if you are opting to do Traya in that Palpatine team, which is not a bad idea. Like, she is a fantastic character, and you have access to her way quicker than you ever used to be. You could farm her first, too. So it just depends. Sun Fac, just for ships. Han Solo just is amazing. He's the same, more expensive General Kenobi, Han, and Traya are all in the same category. They cost 700 of these tokens. The rest cost 200. And 3, it just depends on your timing for farming Commander Luke Skywalker. And then when we get to 5, that's over towards when we need to farm Zori teams. After that, it's kind of up to you, your choice. There's also gear you get with these currencies, so you don't need to only farm characters. Actually, definitely shouldn't. Just really have an idea in mind when you're farming a character. You might need to pick up like Dengar in there if you want dark side bounty hunters for a territory battle or something. Then Fleet Arena, you can get 3 to 4 of these a day. It's kind of spotty, depends how much you're getting in Fleet Arena. Darth Vader is the absolute priority. General Grievous and Hope Razor Crest, they don't fit into this guide super early, but they're rare, so you might want to pick them up anyway, even if you're not developing them. Number 2 priority, and like you're going to be able to do multiple at one time. You want Galactic Republic ships, and Geo Empire for dark side ships, then Rebel ships, then characters as needed. So this is all your currencies you're kind of dealing with. There's another guild token that works as well, that is there as well. It's just old school. You might want to just use that on gear. Sometimes you can pick up characters if you really want, but just use it for gear for developing your roster. And that is currencies. Now we're on to our currency management. I split up normal energy and then Cantina energy and ship energy into different screens. It's just normal, like you use the same resource for light side and dark side nodes. So I just put them all in one. This is like your first 20 priorities or so. You see us moving from Phoenix up through Jedi and Galactic Republic. Moff Gideon's unaudible. If you're using him with that Palpatine team, you do that. Otherwise, you can move on to someone else. Bosk and then his ship are as soon as possible. It's the best ship in the game. It's going to be your ticket to crystals for a while. Then Django it's super nice. Django comes with Houndstooth, so you're going to see a couple doubles here and there that actually kind of work out well. Grief, you get IG-11, that's going to help you towards Beskar Mando later, but it's not a huge priority. Mission and Zalbar being together is fantastic for Jedi Knight Revan. Wrecker and the Y-Winger is actually surprisingly really great too. Some of these, it might take you longer to get to, like if they're in, I don't know, section 7, 8, like it might be a while before you can actually farm them. And you might even want to refresh nodes. Like if you don't have a ton to work on, you can use 25 crystals to refresh a node. I know it's expensive as an early game player. It just depends on what your bottlenecks are. So you have to like play that by ear. And we see us moving along up through the Traya team characters, and then Bad Batch, Zori, and that's energy. So you can see how it lays out. Just follows the guide to a T. Here we got Cantina and ship energy. It's pretty spread out, as you see. Ship energy, you mainly, good rule of thumb, you're going to want to do ships. There's not a ton available. I just say get Marauder ASAP. Like, even if you don't start farming Bad Batch, ships are slower. You only get one shard at a time. So farm that as soon as it pops up. The only priorities before are going to be Anakin and Sunvac come up sooner. Darth Vader's also a priority if you can. I got Shakti here. Grief and Mando you probably have finished off by then, but you probably want to farm the Grief node just for the Rebel Y-Wing eventually anyway. And then the I don't know what the best changes in the past few months is putting Ezra and Kanan on the same Cantina node. That's a no-brainer. Moff Gideon, again, this is only if you have decided to use him. If you're not going to use him, skip to Geonosians for dark side ships, then Plo Koon. We don't have a ton that we have to really get to that fast in Cantina, so you can spend it on ships. T3, timing of this depends. I'm not sure if you'll be done with Plo Koon in his ship before you start going for Revan. That's just for Revan. Geonosian Breed Alpha, once it is available to you, just get him to like 4 stars just to use. It's going to be fun for you, I promise. And then TIE Fighter Pilot, this also depends. I would farm this after you're level 60. It could be moved up a lot. I mean, if you don't farm Moff Gideon, this could take an earlier spot. But make sure you're at least level 60 and have unlocked ships. You might want to do it before Plo Koon. So I hope people actually listen to me talking about this. And then after that, start working on those later teams like Traya or player choice. I just left that up to the player there. So that is Cantina and ship energy. This screen, I'm just going to talk about different guild activities. Being in a guild is super important. The PvE raids, they last every 3 days if it's the newest one, or do it once a week for some of these older ones. Pit is pretty easy. Tank is actually pretty easy too. Like I feel like your guild should at least be doing the tank raid. And then when you get a little bit of progress under your legs, you can start being in a guild that does the Sith raid. If you start out in the Sith raid guild, even better. But I'm not sure how it's actually working with the current landscape because it really shook up in 2023. It's going to take a while to get into like one of these end game raids, so I won't worry too much about it. But the most important thing for you for gear and everything early game is this tier 1 currency. Tier 2, start being able to get your gear 12 plus pieces to get towards gear 13. And then this tier 3 currency is for relics. Also, territory battles, they're important for either unlocking specific characters. You get this get 2 currency, which is for Negotiator. That's probably the most important thing you're getting out of this. You'll get some crystals, gear. These currencies can be used for a variety of things. I'll talk about what to use this guild event currency on in a bit. Probably the best territory battle character is Wat Tambor. This is Darkside Geonosis TB, and you need Geonosians to unlock him. That's why I'm not skipping them on this list necessarily. You need them gear 10 or 11 to get his mission done. Early on, you'll start out on probably a Hoth guild where you're doing Hoth territory battle, and you can only get a little bit of guild 2 currency and then guild tier 1 guild event currency. But it's something you're gonna have to figure out. Every guild is different. Just try to work with them on it. And then the last guild activity is Territory War. This is your guild faces another guild, PvP head-to-head. Just they set a defense, you attack their defense, you set a defense. It's got Zeta mats, it's got a variety of different... It's gated based on the size of your guild, so what you actually get just depends. I think it's probably the worst rewards out of any guild activity, but it's still important to participate. So that is guild activities in a nutshell. Now I'm adding a note in this guide about Conquest and Proving Grounds. I didn't even address it in the past. Conquest is a game mode where you use basically your whole roster, and they run out of stamina as time goes on. You try to progress through different nodes and achieve different feats. This is a really old screenshot, but you have data discs which modify your abilities. There's an easy, normal, and hard mode. Hard mode is obviously the best, but you need 4 million galactic power to access it. So always be thinking about 4 million GP, like if you need to inflate the bottom of your roster, if you have some like low gear sitting around that you could bump up, that is great. And also Proving Grounds, you can only access at 4 million GP, and this is to farm old Conquest characters. So Conquest characters come out every 3 months, and endgame players can get them easily for free if you're getting the max box. But the old Conquest characters, some of them are just such S tier characters. Like these are definitely easy focuses to get. Commander Sokatano, Darth Malgus, Malicos, and Maul, and then some Empire ships. They're S tier characters. It's just gated behind 4 million GP. So I do easy and normal Conquest until you get there, but try to get to 4 million as soon as you can. Then Omicrons. Omicrons are like Zeta mats, but only for specific game modes. I really only want to focus on Grand Arena because that helps you get more crystals in Territory War. Yes, you can help out your Territory War guild, your guild too, with like a Territory War Omicron for Pog the Lesser for Geonosian. So it just depends. If your guild requires you to get TW Omicron, just go ahead and do it. Be a good guildmate. For Grand Arena, I'd only really recommend Traya, Savage, Wampa, and then Qui-Gon. But if you're running a strong Padme team, you don't really need to hurry that. Wampa and Savage are solo monsters, so they can be early priority, especially Savage. So like if you're approaching level 85, really try to get that with your first Omicron, maybe. And yet another game mode to note, this is Assault Battles. They're faction-gated events that happen once a month, and you can get great stuff like Zeta mats, Chirotech, Signal Data, and Relic Materials. So people normally recommend Imperial Trooper, or have been recommending Imperial Troopers early because they can qualify for 2 different Assault Battles, an Empire 1 and an Imperial Trooper 1. However, if you have a good bounty hunter team, you can get pretty far in the that also qualifies for the Imperial Trooper assault battle, and then you have a strong Empire team along this guide, so you don't have to worry about Imperial Troopers there. A Jedi 1, you can use Revan for the time being. If you get Jedi Knight Luke later, he's even better. CLS team is great for this Rebel 1, and then a Palpatine with Sith, so you probably could combine that Palpatine and Traya team for the Sith assault battle. And then the Night Sisters 1, I wouldn't say focus on Night Sisters for this. You can use Phoenix for a while, actually, so you can get like several rungs of this done, even earlier than the others, because if you have a Phoenix team running. They can't do the very end, though. You need Relic Night Sisters for that, but I wouldn't recommend doing that fast. And then Inquisitorius, that's a later focus too, so don't sweat not getting that right away. It didn't even exist for a while. And now we are finally entering the mid-game or early mid-game. There's tons of different definitions for it. But this is stuff to focus on more than a year later. And I haven't talked about Galactic Legends yet, and this is where we're going to start talking about them. But first, I have to note, there's something called Lightspeed Bundles that are in the game now. They started popping up a few months ago. And this is a free-to-play guide. Like, that's based on the premise you won't spend any money. And if you follow it like that, you should do just fine. However, they're offering these super cheap packs to get like tons of characters unlocked all the way to relics for just $10. And this is the best value possible. Like, there's nothing else in the game that's worth money. If you go to the store, it's kind of laughable what they charge for stuff. But these, if you feel so inclined, this is going to really jump you far ahead. And a lot of people say free to play is dead. However, if I start to get, I won't be buying these. What doing this does, you jump ahead of your pacing for mods and Zeta mats and stuff, but it will get you far ahead in relics and, you know, like normal abilities like purple mats. This is like a Supreme Leader Kylo Ren, and this is for both Emperor Palpatine and Thrawn. They will help you get those very easily, but you do need to be level 85 to unlock them. So if you bought the Hyperdrive bundle, you'd be able to get them sooner. At that point, you're just a spending account, not really needing a guide like this. But I do just want to bring it up in case you are the person that doesn't want to work a long time on a team and then just have this dumped on you, and then you could just buy it. And you didn't even need to have done all that work on the gear or the charts or anything. So if you are open to spending, just know that CG has been releasing these kind of randomly. We don't even know what could get them, but they already did Supreme Leader Kylo and Rey, so I don't think we'll see those again for a while at least. Next segment is Galactic Legends, and this is a very long time frame. I just want to stress, like, a super fast Galactic Legend farm would be like Sith the Eternal Emperor, who doesn't require a lot of fleets or high relics. You get like in 9 months or something. However, while Sith the Eternal Emperor is the easiest one to get, I wouldn't recommend going for the easiest. I'd recommend going for the best. And thankfully, Jabba the Hutt and Leia are some of the best. They're also the two newest, the least susceptible to getting a Lightspeed Bundle drop for them. Leia is probably the best overall Galactic Legend right now. Jabba is up there too. And they both have bonus events for them, which give extra resources. You can't go wrong with them. And this path, specifically Leia to Jabba to JML, has a good bit of overlap. But this is a later, like, I don't want people starting Galactic Legends until they have a decent core team set up and a decent, great fleet. So I'm not going to recommend that you go for the super fast even before a year. It's just up to you, though. If you can start working on it before a year, that's fine. Some characters you'll be working on naturally. So if we do go for Leia first, this is kind of what it's going to look like. We have some of these characters that we worked on already. We got Rex and CLS. We already want them. We already have R2-D2. Might not be the high relics. We have 3PO and Chewie. And then there's some others we have to build in. But we already have a good starting point. If you haven't gotten C-3PO yet, it will be a great time to just pick him up while you're farming for Leia, because you need 3 Ewoks that are very strong. They can overkill the event. And it would be pretty smooth in my opinion. Other good requirements that you have for Leia are Captain Drogon, which will go with her. Boosh, who helps you with Jabba and goes with him. Scout Trooper, which would help with an Imperial Trooper team if you start working on them by now. But they are pretty high relics. Relic 7, Relic 8. There's only one Relic 8 required for her, so that's why she's actually pretty friendly. And another reason you kind of want to wait to farm her is Drogon, Scout Trooper, Captain Rex. Well, you want him 7-star earlier, but Drogon, Scout Trooper, and Princess Nisa will be accelerated towards the end of 2024. So if you're starting late, you're picking everyone up at an accelerated rate. These characters down here, they're pretty easy to farm, except for Rebel Officer Leia Organa. You need to get 2, and Raid Currency number 2, which you should only do after farming Negotiator. So that's another reason I'd wait. But really fantastic, just amazing Galactic Legend. You can beat all the other Galactic Legends, so wouldn't be bad to pick her up as your first. And after we get Leia, which will take a hefty amount of time, like believe me, it's going to take a long time, we will need to do some prep for Jedi Master Luke and Jabba. I will go for Jabba first before Jedi Master Luke, so you wouldn't have to worry about these until you do Jedi Master Luke, because you need Jedi Training Rey, you need these resistance characters to get her, and then first order characters to get BBA, who is for unlocking Rey. They're not hard events, so you're just going to be worried about 7 stars and then low gear, and you'll be fine. However, Jedi Knight Luke is a little bit of a longer farm. We should have a lot of it in place already. C-3PO we unlocked while we were going for Leia. Chewbacca, CLS, and Darth Vader we already had. I think Lando, Captain Han we already had for Leia. No, just Lando we already had for Leia. So then you have to get Captain Han. Galactic Bounties is a great source for these characters. Wampa, I think Hermit Yoda, maybe just Wampa and Rolo. But Hermit Yoda, Wampa, you can farm with that get 1 currency. And I'd recommend farming Wampa as soon, or Hermit Yoda as soon as you possibly can with this currency. That's what you should use it for, is to get that. So that's what you use your get 1 for. And then Rolo's get 2. That's kind of an annoying farm that you have to get to. But then now we finally got to Jabba. That's what we're going to start working on. We should already have some of these characters up. Jedi Knight Luke, you'll want him high relics anyway as soon as you get him. C-3PO, we just got 4 to Luke. Han, we already want good. And then Boosh, we already had for Leia. Fennec Shand is a great bounty hunter, can help you counter Lord Vader, so that's fantastic. Already had Boba farmed. So I have them broken up into good, fair, and bad, and that's kind of the general priority I'd have for farming. Coruscant and Skiff, I put them fair, but they do go with Jabba, so they're only fair until you unlock him, and then they're good. The Outrider, it's a rebel ship. It's not playing too much into stuff, but one great thing about Jabba and Leia, especially Leia doesn't require any ships. Jabba is only requiring the 1 single ship, as opposed to like Kylo Ren requires a whole fleet of first order ships. Rey requires a whole fleet of resistance ships. Kind of painful. And then these kind of jokes of characters you need at varying relic levels. The worst of which is Greedo for R6 is the highest. But otherwise, not too bad. And Jabba is just fantastic. Like, if you get Leia and Jabba first, yes, it'll take a little bit longer than like Sith Eternal Emperor. But you will not regret. They are so good. And then the third one we have is Jedi Master Luke. I'm not saying you have to do these bing bang boom, not take any breaks or farm any teams. This is just Galactic Legend progression I'm talking about. Farm other teams in the middle if you want. I think that's good to do. But the green highlighted characters, those are overlapped with Leia. And the purple, they're overlapped with Jabba. So we already have 7 characters pretty much done already for Jedi Master Luke. And we just have a few we have to work with. Chewbacca's fantastic. These 3 are pretty bad, but Biggs might already have been working on for a ship. We got 1 ship in the Rebel Y-Wing, and then these 3 characters. So it is not too bad. It's actually a pretty smooth transition to go Leia, Jabba, Luke, and that is why I'm recommending it. Other characters you might want to shove in there in the middle that are fantastic. Jedi Knight Cal Kestis. I toyed with the idea of having him on that 3rd screen where we have like Zori and what's her face, Traya and stuff. At least the Seer Junda Ufu team. But this is actually more beginner friendly, newer player friendly endgame character. This came out last year, but you only need Gear 12 characters. And he is fantastic. Seer and Cal start at the beginning of an online Force User team, which is amazing. You can have Kylo Mass in there too. Ahsoka Tano Fulcrum version is fantastic in this team, and then Malicos, which is a Conquest character, takes. But then you need 3 other: a Wookiee, a Rebel Fighter, and a Night Sister Gear 12, and they're all pretty good characters too. Inquisitors, you need the event Relic 5 to unlock Grand Inquisitor, and then you need Grand Inquisitor 2 to help unlock Reva, who is a Galactic Legend level type character. And then Starkiller is also kind of like that. You need various characters. Talon, Mara Jade, fantastic with Palpatine. If you unlock Starkiller, you're going to run Palpatine, Mara Jade, and Starkiller together, and then Orphan, Darth Vader, determine what to do with him. I don't know when I'd farm these. Maybe in between of those Galactic Legends. They're a much quicker process, really strong character, but that is up to you. That's why I put optional priorities here. Now, I'd be remiss if I didn't at least address the Executor. I think you should farm Executor for sure. It's a really good priority. I'd probably slot it in between one of those Galactic Legends. If your Negotiator's running just fine in Fleet Arena, you could probably put it off for a while. But what's painful about Executor, it requires all these relic characters, just kind of like normal. I mean, it's 7. It's not too many, but we have 2 R8s, Piet and Boba Fett. I'd rather give other R8s. There's only one R rate required for Galactic Legend Leia, and you don't even need an R rate for Negotiator. It just probably would help to have General Kenobi R rate. He's a fantastic character. Boba Fett Relic 8, kind of like a waste. And Piet, if you're running an Imperial Trooper team, I guess that's kind of nice, but you don't even need him high relic. So even if you want Imperial Troopers, you don't need him that high. So it's just kind of expensive. I mean, Bosk and Vader are kind of no-brainers, but it's a lot of ships to farm too. I don't know. It's kind of a headache. I think it's harder to get to than Negotiator, but it is a fantastic ship. You should get it. Probably should be your first GL type ship if Negotiator isn't counting like that as well. This shouldn't be too hard to farm to get Beskar Mando. You just have to add like Cara Dune and Queel in there somewhere. But it is fantastic. However, one of the huge downsides that no one seems to talk about is you unlock it at 4 stars, and to get to 7 stars, you need to spend like over 20,000 crystals. And I don't know about you, but for a newer player, that would be really hard. For me as an endgame player, that's hard. And to get to 7 star, you need a 7 star to start doing a lot of good stuff. Like it's going to be hard to counter another 7 star Executor without your own 7 star. Profundity is might be a little challenging. So there's hidden costs even above this really high price of entry. There's other stuff there to consider too. And then as we close, I'm going to have some just other quick tips. Set your daily reset fleet arena time to match your schedule. You can change it up to twice a year. Pick a time that works best for you. For me, it's middle of the afternoon, not nighttime or morning. Grab your free energy. It's always going to be worth it to pick that up. Default times are noon, 6 p.m., and 9 p.m. They shift around with your squad arena, fleet arena reset. Switch up the plan if you see something you really want. This is just, at the end of the day, is a guideline. It's suggestions. It's not to lock you in. There's tons of characters and ships not covered in this guide. I can't do everything. Can't include absolutely everything. So just call audibles like as they make sense. I'm telling you. Then don't gear and level up everything. Only useful characters and ships. Just because you have extra galactic war currency doesn't mean you should farm a new character that means nothing to you and gear it up. So just be careful with that. And I think that is basically it. So yeah, that wraps up this 2024 edition of my free-to-play farming guide. I know some of these ideas are new, especially Negotiator instead of Executor. But I think if you were to start a new account today, it would work out. And then Leia, her character will be accelerated by the end of 2024, so that won't be too bad as well. And remember, just because something's hard doesn't mean it's not worth it. You will thank your former self 2-3 years into your account if you start this way in year 1. Anyway, let me know your thoughts below. I know people won't be shy to share dissensions, but share some. What do you think I did well in this guide too? I'd like to hear from that too. Thanks everyone. Let's make this my most viewed video ever. Let's go for 100,000 views. Thanks everyone. See you later.